Hello, I am Mark, the host and creator of all works presented on Dramas, Dreams, and Drollery. The programs are offered free of charge to you, but I retain the copyright to all of their contents. As usual, technical assistance is provided by my granddaughter, India. Today's story involves espionage at the time of the collapse of communism in Europe. It is called The Key. A breeze exceptionally strong, even for November, propelled Magda Heinrich along Madison Road. Her tall, willowy frame displayed a measure of grace under nature's assault. Nearing Alt Park, she pushed the long blonde hair away from her face in order to search for Erica. An old man occupied the bench where they usually sat, but there she was, under an oak tree 50 feet away. Crossing the grass, Magda clutched the letter tightly in one hand. Erica closed the novel she had been reading and smiled. "Hello, Magda. Why so late? It's nearly 6:30. I nearly gave up." The friends kissed one another. "Sorry, Erica, I left work late. Then, in my mailbox, I found this extraordinary letter, which started me thinking about all sorts of things. I nearly forgot our weekly meeting." Erica's green eyes narrowed as her mouth formed a mischievous smile. "Tell me about it. Is it from some dark, handsome bullfighter?" "Oh, nothing like that," sputtered Magda. "It's from my brother Dieter." "Huh, I didn't know you had a brother. I thought the death of your mother last year had left you without any relatives." "Well, it's a long story, but I'll bet you're hungry. I certainly am. Let's find a restaurant, and I'll tell you everything while we're eating." Despite the blustery wind, the women left their cars near the park and walked 3 blocks to Ziggy's, a popular eatery. Seated at a corner table decorated with a red and white checkerboard cloth, they ordered dinners of halibut and red potatoes. While waiting to be served, Magda began her tale. "You know that I came to America from Germany. Because of a difficult past, I usually say little more than that when people ask me about my background. Even to you, my best friend, I've said almost nothing. But this evening, I'm going to tell you the whole story. I need advice. Please understand that what I say must remain confidential." Erica smiled and placed a reassuring hand on Magda's arm. 5 years ago, in 1984, my mother, my brother Dieter, and I were living together in Leipzig, East Germany. We didn't like living under communism. Life was very hard for all Germans behind the Iron Curtain. To survive, many of our neighbors engaged in activities of questionable ethics. Mother and I worried about Dieter. Some of his friends seemed to be unsavory people. Sometimes he would go away with them for days and return without an explanation. Wishing to flee such a life, Mother conceived a plan that would take us to America. The first step involved going to a village near Halle. From there, friends would take us across the border to Switzerland. Everything went well until the final critical moment. At that instant, Dieter refused to accompany us. He said, "There's something I must do. I will join you later." After arriving here in Cincinnati, Mother and I agonized over those words. What did they mean? For a while, we didn't know where he was. Eventually, friends gave us his address. We wrote to Dieter, but his letters to us were always brief, cryptic, and of course censored. 2 years ago, he stopped writing altogether. That was about the time I met you. Well, you know the rest. Mother got cancer and died. I rarely thought about Dieter after that until 2 weeks ago when communism collapsed and my countrymen tore down the Berlin Wall. Since then, my brother has been very much in my mind. I pray nightly that we might be reunited. Now, today, I received this letter from Dieter. To me, it is as mysterious as his earlier ones. Let me read it to you, and then you can tell me what you think. Dear mother and sister, it's been a long time since I last wrote to you. I apologize for that. Now that communism is dead in East Germany, you might think that all the laws and rules have changed overnight. But it's not that simple. We are experiencing a swift but uncertain transition. In most areas, champions of democracy are now in charge, but in others, the old authorities still rule. Generally speaking, law enforcement officials are trying to uproot the old guard, yet the Stasi is active overtly and underground. Both sides use force. Assassinations are too commonplace. In such a climate, one must be careful of every act, and every acquaintance is capable of betrayal. For these reasons, I cannot join you just yet. Fortunately, censorship has ended, so I can at least write to you safely. Please do me a favor. With this letter, I have sent you a key. Put it in a secure place and tell no one about it. Failure to do as I ask could cost me my life. I hope to see you within 6 months. My love to both of you, your son and brother Dieter. Wow, that's quite a letter. I wonder what that key is for. I wonder too, but I fear for my brother's life. The Stasi, to which he refers, is the East German secret police. They have a reputation for ruthlessness. Don't you think the letter hints that he's involved in something dangerous? It certainly does. But why are you showing me the letter? I need advice. Do you think there's anything I could do to help my brother? Where is he right now? Last I knew, he was in Leipzig, but the postmark on the letter says Berlin. I don't know what to tell you exactly, but I do believe that going to Germany to look for him would be a mistake. Intervening in affairs of this sort, of which you have no knowledge, could bring trouble to you and to Dieter. My advice would be to hide the key in your apartment and wait for further word from your brother. That evening, Magda weighed her friend's words. They seemed sound. If the key was worth Dieter's life, she must hide it with great care. Furthermore, it might be wise to make a duplicate. For that purpose, she went at once to the 24-hour pharmacy on the corner. Back at home, she put the original key in her bra and buried the copy in a jar of Vaseline in her medicine cabinet. She went to sleep confident of her actions. The young woman was not her normal self at work the next day. Her mind was elsewhere. She regretted that her mother had not lived long enough to see the family reunited. She feared that something dreadful might happen to Dieter. She also speculated about the mysterious key. What did it open? Why would people kill for it? These thoughts still persisted when Magda reached her apartment at 6 that evening. Inside the front door, she discovered a horrendous scene of destruction. The house had been ransacked. Furniture was overturned, drawers lay on the floor, Cushions and mattresses were slashed. Magda wondered what the burglars had stolen. Suddenly, she remembered the key. Rushing into the bathroom, she saw the same chaos as in the other rooms. The door of the medicine cabinet was open and the shelves were empty. Among the smashed bottles on the floor lay the one she sought. The key was gone. A thorough search of the house revealed that nothing else was missing. The intruders had left her credit card and a collection of coins. The official police report summarized the crime as an act of vandalism. Magda knew better. In the hour after the police had left, Magda sat on a chair and considered the significance of this incident. Dieter had warned that failure to secure the key could cost him his life. Would he now die because of her? One other thought bedeviled her. In Cincinnati, only she and Erica had known about the key. Moreover, Erica was the one who had recommended her apartment as the hiding place for it. The conclusion seemed almost inescapable. Erica had taken the key. But why? Her friend had no possible use for it. Magda picked up the phone and started to dial. Abruptly, she hung up. A phone call would not do. She had to confront her friend in person. Magda went to Erica's apartment early the next morning. Ringing the bell elicited no response. So she knocked on the door of the manager, Mrs. O'Grady. A chubby, red-headed woman opened the door while munching on a sausage. "Oh, hello, dearie. Do you remember me?" "Sure, you're a friend of Erica's in number 14. "That's right. Can you tell me where she is? I have something urgent to discuss with her." "Oh, she checked out last night very suddenly. In her hands were a couple of suitcases. She said I could keep anything left behind." "Did she leave a forwarding address?" "No, nothing at all. Just said she wouldn't be coming back." "This is stunning news. I need to find her at once. She stole something very valuable from me." "Oh, I see. That explains the hasty retreat. I was always leery of her and her German friend." "German friend? You mean me?" No, dearie, the man." "What man?" "I heard her call him Werner. He was a tall man with a birthmark on his face, on his cheek." "What else do you know about him?" "Nothing much. They talked in German all the time." "Erica spoke German?" "Sure. Didn't she talk to you in German?" "No, I had no idea that she spoke German. She told me that she was a German American. I thought that maybe a great-grandfather had come from Germany." No, she came from Germany herself only about 2 years ago." "This is shocking. I regarded her as my best friend. And now I find she has deceived me and stolen something of value. May I ask a favor of you?" "Certainly, honey." "Let me search her apartment. Now more than ever, I need to locate this woman. My brother's life may be in danger. I can't tell you more. Just let me have a look." "Well, I suppose that's okay. She said I could have anything that was left behind." The two women went to apartment number 14. The rooms manifested signs of an abrupt departure. Shoes and clothing remained in the closets. Toiletries were scattered about the bathroom. Magda searched for 2 hours. She wanted to be thorough. It became apparent that Erica had been equally thorough in the attempt to cover up her retreat. Labels had been ripped off garments and bottles. The wastebaskets were empty. There was nothing traceable. Magda left the apartment deeply disappointed. On the sidewalk outside the building, she noted a row of mailboxes. Perhaps Erica had neglected to check her mailbox in the haste to depart. Magda knew it was a federal crime to tamper with postal services, but her brother's life was at risk. In broad daylight, with a metallic fingernail file, she tried to pry open the box. She gave up after 20 minutes of fruitless effort. Magda returned later with better tools. In a short time, she opened Erica's box. There were 2 pieces of junk mail and a letter from Germany. She had hit the jackpot. Magda put the letter in her purse. In the destroyed mailbox, she put $40 and a card that said, "Sorry." In her apartment, the young woman's hand trembled a bit as she opened the letter. A Colonel Grunwald in Berlin was commanding Erica to intercept any correspondence to Magda from her brother. Reliable sources had reported that a package or letter would almost certainly contain a key that could change the future of Germany. The closing lines of Grunwald's message made Magda shudder. People will do anything to get that key. In the right hands, lives will be saved. In the wrong hands, lives will be lost. For us, one major advantage is that we should be able to eliminate the elusive and troublesome Dieter Heinrich. Magda began to cry. Dieter was involved in something very important, and he was in great jeopardy. At this very instant, Erica might be on her way to Berlin with the key. How could she warn her brother when she had no way to contact him? She wasn't even sure of the city in which he resided. If she couldn't warn Dieter, the only other alternative was to locate Erica and retrieve the key before its delivery to Colonel Grunwald. Was that even possible? Should she fly to Germany and make a desperate attempt to do one of these things? Then an interesting idea came to her. Being German, Erica might have developed the habit of flying Lufthansa Airlines. At once she called the airport. "Hello, can you tell me if an Erica Bauer purchased a Lufthansa ticket for Germany within the past 48 hours? She's my sister and I need to reach her at once." Just a moment, please. I'll check the computer." The pause seemed interminable to Magda. "Yes, she and a companion named Werner Steinbacher purchased tickets to Berlin for today. They are on flight 419, which departed about an hour ago." Magda's heart sank. When will the plane reach Berlin? "Your sister will change planes at New York. She's scheduled to take flight 763 from Kennedy Airport at 5:35 this evening. However, weather conditions in the North Atlantic are extremely bad at this time. All transatlantic flights have been postponed indefinitely." "If I were to fly to New York this morning, is it possible that I could make flight 763? "Why, yes. From what they tell me, it is unlikely that any flights to Europe will depart before midnight. Would you like me to arrange passage to New York and a seat on flight 763? "Yes, please do." Before going to the airport, Magda bought a dark wig and some dark glasses. At the corner pharmacy, she also bought an ordinary key that closely resembled the one upon which lives depended. She put the bogus key into her purse and the precious one into her bra. Magda's plane touched down at Kennedy Airport shortly after sunset. She scurried to a monitor that displayed flight data. It showed that flight 763 would depart at 5 a.m. from gate 34. She had made it with considerable time to spare. To avoid contact with the renegades, she spent most of the night in a distant part of the airport. About an hour before departure, she returned to the proper area. Near Gate 34, she entered a shop to obtain a magazine that she could use to shield her face on the plane. In the shop, she nearly bumped into a tall man with a birthmark on his face. Moments later, Magda saw him join Erica in the line at the gate. At boarding time, the pursuer adroitly maneuvered to her seat at the rear of the plane without being observed. Throughout the flight, with the aid of the magazine, she remained undetected. In Berlin, Magda temporarily lost sight of the quarry as the pair deplaned ahead of her, but she caught up with them at the baggage retrieval station. Unfortunately, Erica and Werner reclaimed their bag before hers were available. To maintain the pursuit, Magda had to abandon one suitcase. She followed the couple outside the terminal. Standing on a corner, ignoring cab drivers who hailed them, the pair appeared to be awaiting someone. Magda felt panicky. At any moment, a car would arrive, pick up Erica with her key, and presumably transport her to Colonel Grunwald's office. To save the life of Dieter, she had to act now. Magda studied the scene scrupulously. What caught her attention were a trash can visible to her but not to those she pursued, and two rough-looking teenage boys loitering against a wall. She rushed over to the boys and made them an offer. How would you like to earn $20 American apiece for less than 10 minutes' work? There was a slight hesitation. Finally, the taller boy said, Sure, what do we have to do? First, I need to know which of you can run faster. The boys quickly agreed that the shorter boy was faster. All right then, here's what I want. Reaching into her purse, Magda extracted the false key. Addressing the taller boy, she gave strict instructions. Carry this key in your hand while you walk past that couple with the suitcases. Let the key drop at the feet of the woman without letting them know you did it. Then just keep going. Don't turn back, hesitate, or talk to them. Do you understand? Yes? Magda handed the key to the boy, who complied faithfully with his instructions. Hearing something strike the floor at her feet, Erica looked down and spotted the object. At first, she thought that the boy must have dropped it, but he failed to respond when she called to him. Then the idea crossed Erica's mind that she might have dropped it. Checking her purse, she sighed with relief to discover that the crucial key remained in her possession. After observing these actions, Magda gave instructions to the short young man. Snatch the purse from the hand of that woman, run over here behind the wall, and throw the purse in the trash can. Then continue running into the crowd in the terminal. Even if that man chases and catches you, he won't be able to prove a thing. You won't have the purse. Here is the $40 for you and your friend. The second boy performed his task well. After Werner had run past her in pursuit of the thief, Magda took the key from the purse and left the airport as quickly as possible. With both copies of the key in her possession, Dieter was safe, at least for now. Magda had breakfast at a small cafe. Then she went to the Tiergarten, Berlin's zoo, and sat on a bench. She needed to think. Monkeys in a cage nearby chattered loudly, but the woman didn't notice them. She was preoccupied with the problem of contacting Dieter. How could it be done safely, both for herself and for her brother? Loss of the key would not deter Colonel Grunwald or the Stasi. Even without knowledge of her role in this affair, they would continue to seek Dieter and the key. She must be careful not to abet their search. In her mind, Magda dug deep into the past. One name stood out as the best possible link to her brother. Of all Dieter's friends in Leipzig, Gerhard Mannheim had been the most cheerful, likable, and decent. Like her brother, he seemed to be involved in some mysterious activities. Perhaps he still was, and perhaps he was still working with Dieter. Even if her brother remained in Berlin, she would have no idea where to locate him. She must find Gerhard, but to do that required travel to Leipzig. Before leaving the Tiergarten, she buried the duplicate key in the grass under the bench where she sat. On the same day, after the setback at the air terminal, Erika and Werner had reported directly to Colonel Grunwald. A short man dressed in military uniform, wearing thick glasses, and possessing a face with a perpetual scowl, he listened impassively as they told of their extraordinary bad luck to have been the target of a teenage purse snatcher. When they finished, the apparent impassivity yielded to fury and skepticism. How do you know that the thief was a common criminal and not someone specifically seeking the key? When neither Werner nor Erika could answer the question to his satisfaction, the colonel sent a team of policemen to the terminal with instructions to look for the purse and to fetch the film from the terminal's monitoring system. 2 hours later, the officer had both the purse and film in hand. An inspection of the purse revealed nothing missing but the key. How can you categorize as a common thief someone who takes no money or credit cards? Erika and Werner, to whom the question was addressed, offered no reply. They remained in sheepish silence as Grunwald lit a pipe. After a few puffs on the pipe, the colonel made another query. Is there any other person besides Magda Heinrich who might have known that you had the key in your possession? Hearing a negative response, the officer gave new instructions. I'm going to play for you on that screen the tape of passengers exiting from Flight 763. I want you to observe carefully. Tell me if you see Magda Heinrich. Remember that she might be in disguise. I think this is a waste of time, Colonel. I know Magda well. She's not the sort of person to act decisively and cleverly. Grunwald inhaled deeply. He blew the smoke out slowly. Perhaps, he said, but then you were wrong about the purse snatcher. We'll look at the tape anyway. After several minutes of viewing the tape, Erika was on the verge of delivering a diplomatic "I told you so" to her superior when she spotted a familiar face. Stop the tape, she ordered. Focus on the woman in the blue outfit. Erika studied the picture carefully. Finally, she muttered, There's no doubt about it, that's Magda. Without waiting to hear more, Colonel Grunwald pressed a button under his desk. A uniformed aide rushed into the room. Pointing to the picture on the screen, the officer issued a command. Make numerous copies of that photo and distribute them to our agents throughout Berlin. I want the woman in the blue outfit in my office within 24 hours. Just as the search for her got underway in Berlin, Magda rode safely on the train to Leipzig. Throughout the journey, she strove to recall everything about Gerhard Mannheim, whom she hadn't seen in 5 years. Prior to her hasty exit from Germany, he had visited their apartment on many occasions. Gerhard was about her brother's age, 2 years older than she. He was handsome and ingratiating. Magda remembered that she had liked him very much, even when he teased her. Dieter always praised his friend's intelligence. He never could beat Gerhard at chess. From the railway station in Leipzig, Magda took a taxi to the neighborhood where the Mannheims had lived. She had never been inside the residence, but she knew its approximate location. The house was definitely on Hafnerstrasse, but driving up and down that street failed to awaken her memory, so she went to a corner cafe and asked to see the phone book. There was an entry for Otto Mannheim at number 24 Hafnerstrasse. That had to be it. It was nearly 8 p.m., and lights were burning in the windows of number 24. A short woman in her 50s with a bright, cheery face opened the door when Magda rang the bell. Having seen Mrs. Mannheim only once or twice before, Magda was unsure of this person's identity. "Excuse me, are you Mrs. Mannheim?" "Yes," the woman replied with a puzzled look. "Do you remember me? I'm Magda Heinrich, Dieter's sister." "Why, of course. Please enter. What a coincidence that you have come now." Magda followed Mrs. Mannheim into a dimly lit and sparsely furnished room. On a small table was a photo of Gerhard and his father. "Excuse the bad lighting and the bad furniture. I know that you rich Americans have everything." "Oh, your place is fine. And in America, I don't have everything." "Would you like some tea or coffee?" "No, thank you. To tell you the truth, I'm in a bit of a hurry." "Yes, I know. In America, everyone's in a hurry." "I was hoping to see your son, Gerhard. I thought he might help me locate my brother." "Well, that's what I was starting to tell you. It's a coincidence that you've come at this time. Only 2 days ago, Gerhard was here. But after receiving a phone call, he said he was going to Berlin to find Dieter. He asked me to keep this information confidential. I don't suppose that he meant that I couldn't tell you. After all, you're Dieter's sister." "Can you give me Gerhard's address in Berlin?" "Certainly. Wait just a moment." Magda tingled with excitement upon receiving a piece of paper with the information she sought. To her, it represented a stay of execution for her brother. After bidding a polite adieu to Mrs. Mannheim, she rushed out of the house as if to fly to Berlin at once. But on the street, she knew she had to control her emotions. It was too late in the day to procure the transportation she needed. Magda spent the night at a small hotel. She arose early and went to the railway station. By 9, she was on a train for Berlin. Colonel Grunwald looked at his watch. It was a few minutes before noon, and he was hungry, but he was also exasperated. Nearly 24 hours had elapsed since he had given the order to find Magda Heinrich. He was about to express his frustration to Erika Bauer and Werner Steinbacher when an aide burst into the room with an important announcement. "Colonel Grunwald, I have on the phone Ludwig Holtz. He has located Magda Heinrich." The officer picked up the phone at once. "Do you have the lady in custody?" "No, sir. I spotted her at the railway station just as she was getting into a taxi. I'm following her right now. When the taxi stops, I'll arrest her." "Cancel that arrest order for the moment. Continue to follow her. Call me again when she reaches her destination. I want to know where she's going and whom she's meeting." After hanging up the phone, Grunwald smiled and uttered an emphatic, "Aha!" Erika and Werner looked on with interest. The colonel shook his head a few times as though rejecting unsatisfactory ideas. Then he said to Erika, "I believe your friend is about to lead us to her brother. So then we'll have both him and the key? asked the woman. When Grunwald replied in the affirmative, Erika said to him meekly, Your pardon, Colonel Grunwald. Werner and I have worked so hard to get this key. May we know why it's so important? Well, in view of your heroic efforts, I suppose you deserve to know. However, you must not reveal to others what I am about to tell you. The key opens a safe deposit box in the Adlerhorst Bank, which lies in a part of East Germany that has fallen under the control of democratic elements. During this turbulent transition of power, the directors of the bank have temporarily frozen all accounts at the bank. For the present, it allows no additions or withdrawals from safe deposit boxes. Inside the box that the key opens are documents listing the names and other critical data of virtually every significant communist in Germany. In the hands of the advocates of democracy, the papers would produce exposés, purges, trials, and executions. In short, communism in our country would die. But retained in our hands, the same records preserve a nucleus around which a resurgent communist force can retake the nation. Currently, Germany is undergoing a democratic revolution, but every revolution loses steam. When democracy falters, our counter-revolution will begin. So you see, it's imperative that we protect the identities of our people and allow them to go underground. I'm really not making a joke when I say that the object we seek is the key to Germany's future. How did the key fall into the wrong hands? Asked Werner. Captain Wilhelm Gruber, one of our own staff, was a traitor. 2 years ago, he passed the key to Klaus Schulz, the editor of the Democratic Volksweg magazine. The journalist planned to publish the papers at the most favorable moment. Fortunately for us, we learned of Gruber's treachery. Under torture, he told us about Schulz, but after arresting the newspaperman, we could not find the key. Sometime after eliminating him, we discovered that he had passed the key to an anti-communist agent, Dieter Heinrich. Since then, we have searched frantically and futilely for that man. We even dispatched you, Comrade Bauer, to America to watch his mother and sister. Ironically, Heinrich was already in our custody, but we didn't realize it. We mistook him for a common troublemaker named Gustav Fechte. We learned the truth only after the anti-communist surge had begun early this month. By then, revolutionaries had torn down the wall and released many of our prisoners, among whom was Heinrich. In the turmoil of the present, he apparently thought it best to send the key to his sister in the United States. Because of your good work, Comrade Bauer, we regained control of it briefly. Now we're on the verge of reclaiming it once more. Unaware of the Stasi's intense search for her, Magda arrived at the Bahnhof in Berlin. She entered a taxi without noticing Ludwig Holz running in her direction, and she did not notice him following her to a location near the Charlottenschloss. At the address given to her by Mrs. Mannheim, Magda was pleased to see again the handsome face of Gerhard, her brother's best friend. He recognized her at once. Magda, what a pleasant surprise. It's been years since I've seen you. Come in. Magda followed the young man inside a large, bright room with a high ceiling. Thank you, Gerhard. It's a pleasure to see you too. Is it possible that Dieter is here at your place? Oh, I'm sorry he isn't. Strangely enough, I came to Berlin only a few days ago to search for him. So you don't know where he is? No, I don't. Do you? No, but I must find him at once. And so must I. It seems that all of Berlin is looking for him. He's in great danger, isn't he? Gerhard hesitated before replying. To be honest, he is in danger. He has in his possession something that many people want desperately. Yes, I know, a key. Gerhard gave Magda a startled look. You know about the key? I don't know exactly what it represents, but Dieter told me that people might kill for it. That's true. Gerhard, I don't need to know what you and Dieter are doing, but please help me find him. I'm terrified to think that people might kill him for the key when he doesn't even have it. A look of surprise passed over the young man's face. How do you know that? Because I have it. What? You have it? Is it here now with you? Yes. Then you too are in danger. Will you trust me enough to give me the key? I promise to do with it just as Dieter wishes. I'm sorry, Gerhard, but my brother told me to guard it until he gave me new instructions. All right then, but you won't object if I provide you with bodyguards? After all, you're the sister of my best friend. I know Dieter would protect my sister. Magda wavered a moment. I suppose that would be all right. Good. How about some juice or a soda while I make a phone call? Thank you, but I don't really want anything to drink. Go ahead and make your call. Gerhard smiled. I'll be right back. While waiting, Magda glanced around the room. She saw photos of Gerhard's family and friends, but none of Dieter. The pictures reminded her of happy times. Returning to the room, Gerhard told his visitor that everything had been arranged. For the next 10 minutes, the pair discussed the photos and the happy times they represented. Abruptly, there was a knock at the door. Gerhard opened it and admitted two men with stern faces. As one of them advanced toward Magda, he said, "Come with us, please." Caught off guard, the young woman replied, "I don't understand." Without moving, while maintaining the austere expression on their faces, the two men waited for her to comply. Magda turned to Gerhard. "Are these the bodyguards?" she asked. The young man nodded. "Then why must I follow them?" she inquired. Without replying, Gerhard said to the men, "Take her to Colonel Grunwald." The command stunned Magda. Apparently Gerhard was working with Dieter's enemies. In disbelief, she muttered, "But you're my brother's best friend." Gerhard smiled and replied, "Not anymore. Things can change a lot in 5 years. Dieter and I now see the world quite differently. In fact, he and I are on opposing sides. Thanks to you, our side will prevail." At Stasi headquarters, Magda was strip-searched, relieved of the key, and interrogated. In a short time, Colonel Grunwald decided that the woman knew nothing about Dieter's affairs or even about the key that she had received. Briefly, he considered ordering her immediate execution. But then he saw value in keeping her in custody. The Stasi badly wanted her brother. Maybe Magda could be used as bait to lure him into a trap. At least she might provide information that would facilitate his capture. The prisoner was placed in a solitary cell in the basement of Stasi headquarters, a stark, cramped space furnished only with a sink, a toilet, and a bed. About 8 o'clock the following morning, Magda was escorted to the office of Colonel Grunwald. There she found the officer entertaining several officials who appeared to be people of importance. Uncharacteristically smiling, he seemed anxious to impress his visitors. "This is Magda Heinrich, sister of the notorious Dieter Heinrich. I am currently designing a plan to capture him by using her as bait. Although she does not know his whereabouts or his activities, you may wish to ask her some questions. Colonel, said a corpulent man with a deep voice, as you know, the situation here in the Democratic Republic is changing rapidly. Clearly, we will soon be forced to go underground. There is only one matter that interests any of us at this time. It is the protection of our identities, which rests on recovery of the key. So I must ask Miss Heinrich if she knows about that object. Before Magda could speak, Grunwald said, Mr. Friedrich, you've spoiled my plan. After you had finished your questioning, I had intended to reveal a sensational surprise. From Miss Heinrich, we have already recovered the key we have sought so diligently. From a pocket, the colonel removed the object and held it up in triumph. His audience reacted with joy and applause. Of all the onlookers, only Mr. Friedrich remained unsmiling. Very soberly, he said, That is wonderful news, Colonel Grunwald. I'm certain that our people will present you with a suitable reward for such a significant act. We are all breathing a sigh of relief. However, our security still relies on protection of that key. Just as there are rewards for recovering it, there will be serious punishment for losing it again. What will you do with the key so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands once more? Have no fear, said Grunwald. Until that bank unfreezes its accounts, the key will remain on my person or in a special hiding place I have in an adjacent office. I think it's a rather clever location. To assuage your concerns, why don't you all come and see? The officer escorted his guests into the next room. As he shut the door behind him, he said to Magda, Stay in this room until I return. Do not attempt to escape. There's a guard in the hallway. Magda remained in her seat. A janitor entered the room and began to clean. For an instant, Magda considered escaping, but she quickly dismissed the idea. The guard would surely stop her. Abruptly, the janitor rested his broom against a wall and began to examine papers on the colonel's desk. What are you doing? Asked Magda. Don't you know me? Asked the janitor. Dieter, Magda exclaimed. But how? Brother and sister embraced. In this disguise, I've managed to penetrate Stasi security. I'm looking for the key or information about it. I heard they took it from you. Colonel Grunwald has the key. He's in the next room with it, but he may return at any moment. Listen to me carefully. I have made a duplicate key and buried it under a bench opposite the monkey cages in the Tiergarten. Go retrieve that key at once and put it in a safe place. But you must know that Gerhard is a traitor. Do not trust him. The next morning, Colonel Grunwald met in his office with Erika Bauer, Werner Steinbacher, and Gerhard Mannheim. While he was outlining the plan to lure Dieter Heinrich into a trap, an aide entered the room. Colonel Grunwald, the prisoner Magda Heinrich wishes to come to your office. She says she wants to make you an important offer. What can this be? Asked the officer. To the aide he ordered, Bring her here at once. While the aide was fetching the woman, he said to his subordinates, This may be interesting. Listen carefully to what she says. There may be some trickery involved. Magda was brought into the office and seated in a chair. I understand you wish to make me an offer. That's correct. Now, what could you possibly offer me when I hold all the cards? Both you and the key are in my possession. True, but there's something important that you do not know. And what is that? Before leaving America, I made a copy of the key, and I brought it with me to Berlin. Thus, without my help, the items you wish to protect are as vulnerable as before. The colonel twisted nervously in his chair, but his voice remained calm. And what is it that you want for the key? I ask only that you call off the pursuit of my brother. Promise that you will let him go, and I will take you to the place where I hid the key. That is a very interesting offer. Before replying, I shall consult my colleagues. Magda was led to another room before Grunwald spoke to his associates. Well, what do you think? He asked. What do we have to lose? Asked Werner. If she gives us the key, we can still pursue her brother. So it would seem, responded the colonel. But would she have a hidden motive for this proposal? Is there something she's not telling us? I don't think so, said Erica. I know she has a deep love for her brother. Besides, she's had no opportunity to plot with other people. I agree with Comrade Bauer, said Gerhard. All right then, said Colonel Grunwald. In that case, I want all of you to accompany us to the place she designates. We will sink or swim together. In mid-afternoon the same day, 2 vehicles arrived at the Tiergarten. Descending from them and entering the zoo were Magda Heinrich, 2 armed guards, Colonel Grunwald, and his 3 subordinates. As the group walked along a pathway, they saw ahead a squad of 20 soldiers marching in their direction. Disquieted at the sight of troops in the zoo, Grunwald halted his party to let the others pass. But the larger body surrounded his and disarmed the 2 guards. What is the meaning of this? Demanded Grunwald. Magda replied, You told me to bring you to the place where the key was located. Well, this is it. I buried the key right over there beneath the bench in front of the monkey cages. Unfortunately for you, it is no longer there. My brother Dieter has it now, and he will use it when the bank unfreezes the accounts. However, I didn't wish to leave you totally empty-handed. Turning to the sergeant who led the band of soldiers, she said, I told my brother to have you bring me 2 things. Do you have them? The soldiers began to laugh as the sergeant fulfilled her request. To the colonel, she said, Here is the proper key for you. Magda held the object aloft for a brief moment. Then she walked to the monkey cage and used it to unlock it. Now, Colonel, you and your associates can conspire in here. The soldiers escorted the prisoners into the cage while the monkeys screamed in concern. After locking the door, Magda resumed her words to the officer. You should know that Mr. Friedrich has received an anonymous call inviting him to witness an interesting spectacle in the Tiergarten. From the sergeant, Magda took the second object. It was a sign that she buried in the grass in front of the monkey cage. It read, Citizens of Berlin, here are some of the leading Stasi monkeys who have tormented you for years. Read about them in coming issues of Volkswagen. End of story. I hope you enjoyed this story. Next time I'll offer a play of science fiction. Thanks for watching Dramas, Dreams, and Drollery.